Hello, it's David Perlman for Conversations at thewholenote.com, and I'm here with Stephanie Martin, choral conductor, early music lover, many other things. The immediate context for getting together at this particular time is this. Can we see it? I'm not sure if we can, but Elgar's The Kingdom.
Yeah, should we call that early music, David? What do
Well,
you say?
what would you say?
I don't know.
Yeah?
It almost is now, isn't it? It's, in fact, it's almost like new music if we have to put a category on it, because it hasn't been performed in Toronto for over a quarter century. And there are strange markings in here. When we had our first read-through, well, I could open it and show you, but Elgar has his own musical notation where he indicates almost every other bar is to slow down, speed up. It's extraordinarily expressive music, and he has his own way of showing that. So I say it's new music because everyone performing, except for one person, will never have seen this music before. So,
wow. So you said when we opened it, we in this context is Pax Christi.
Yeah.
Concert at Koerner Hall.
Yeah.
May
6th.
May
at
6th,
3 o'clock.
3 p.m.
Yeah.
And this is the only work on the program.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know the work, so I'm one of the many who won't know anything about it.
Well, if you're a fan of Oratorio and Elgar, you've probably heard of another work called The Dream of Gerontius.
I have.
That's a really famous work. And that was early on, at the turn of the century. This work is from 1906. And it was part of a grand scheme that Elgar had to write a triptych of oratorios, 3 huge works, modeled on Wagner's Ring.
But
that
in
would
the
be
realm of oratorio.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Sacred text?
Sacred opera, if you want to call it that, yeah. But the main thing is that his overall plan was to have leitmotifs that would represent melodic fragments that would represent a character or an idea, and that those leitmotifs, just like in Wagner's Ring, would be shared throughout each oratorio.
And where was this going to fit in the...
This was to be the middle one. Okay. As it turns out, it's the last one, because he never got around to writing the 3rd oratorio. The first one's called The Apostles. This is The Kingdom. And the 3rd never got written. Yeah.
So the kingdom is the kingdom of heaven? Or?
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people have a notion about Elgar, and they think of England and the British Empire, and they think the kingdom is some kind of
Arthurian
propaganda or something.
Or,
yeah. Not at all. It's the story is it's biblical, and the stars of this oratorio are Saint Peter, Saint John, Mary, and Mary Magdalene.
So this is for choir, singers, and what?
Yeah. We have 100 singers.
Okay.
In Pax Christi, we have a youth choir as well, who's also going to be performing with us. So a nice big choir. The orchestra, just as Elgar wanted it, down to the contrafagot, all of the instruments. It's a big orchestra, big Wagnerian orchestra. And 4 soloists. Shannon Mercer, Christina Szabo, Keith Claassen, all people well known in Toronto. The star, St. Peter, is a baritone from England who we're bringing over. His name's Roderick Williams, and he's sung this role many times. Okay. And that's, in fact, why I was attracted to this work, because I heard him perform it live. It tends to be how I choose repertoire for my choir, not from recordings, but hearing live performances, because that's so much more exciting.
Where's the youth choir from?
They are our own youth choir,
Pax
Christi's youth choir, conducted by Lynn Janes, who's a music educator.
Lynn,
yeah.
I remember Lynn from many years ago with Canadian Children's Opera Chorus. She was conductor of the 2nd of what was 3 choirs at that time. Yeah.
And the girls in the youth choir joined some of the women in the adult choir to form a particular dramatic piece in the work, which is called the Mystic Chorus. Okay. They sing this ethereal music that sort of hovers above the apostles just as the dramatic moment of the piece is going to happen. The event of Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit descends on the apostles and chaos breaks loose. They start talking in all kinds of different languages, but they can understand each other, so there's a lot of mood changes, a lot of drama.
Does it run seamlessly, or is there a break in the piece? Or?
Yep. The first part is about an hour long, and that works into 3 sections as well. So it's not completely continuous. It feels like 5 movements. So 3 in the first half, intermission, and then second half that deals with the arrest of Saint Peter and John and their release and subsequent rejoicing.
So how long ago did you say to the choir, guess what, this is what you're going to be doing for the next X period of your life?
Yeah, to work up a performance of a big piece like this, it takes about 2 years of planning. With your board of directors to, figure out what you're going to do for a very special season like this one. It's our 25th anniversary. Right. We wanted to do something really spectacular, and we wanted to go into Koerner Hall because it's such a lovely performance venue. And we chose this because it's unknown, and Pax Christi is sort of famous for taking risks. We like to do things that are on the fringe, and we like singing English repertoire too because the drama is so immediate. It's for for the singers and the audience. We can understand it, and we can get into the language. And also we like the scope of it, that it's going to be a very special performance since it is such a large orchestra, and the choir's been working very hard on it since January.
Wow. Yeah,
the notes are hard, and Elgar is always very challenging to sing because he writes in sort of a cerebral way. There are lots of fugues for the choir and divided choir, so you get a really thick choral sound. So it's a challenge, but Pax Christi likes the challenge. They like to sink their teeth into something really challenging.
So you said 25 years for the choir, and your association with the choir?
15 years.
15 of the 25.
Yeah. So I've done a number of Elgar pieces. We did Dream of Gerontius back in 2001. We did The Music Makers, and we had Catherine Robin as our guest mezzo there. So we've done a few of the big works, but now the Kingdom is another challenge because it's so rarely performed.
Is it the biggest venue for the choir, or I mean, is Koerner like a step up from? I know you've often Calvin used to be a home base, so only for
no. In fact, our home has been Grace Church on the Hill for 15 years, and we love singing there. It's beautiful, warm acoustic, and we're usually able to perform an oratorio twice, so we can do 2 performances, which is luxurious because the second time around is much more relaxed. But now that we're going into a bigger venue, we just get to do it once, so we have to be on our game.
So what drew you to Pax Christi? How did you find the choir?
They asked me to come along and conduct. They were looking for a conductor 15 years ago. It was a smaller choir. It was 30, 40 singers, and they had been used to doing modest concerts with piano accompaniment, but I really wanted to do the big works as they were conceived by the composer. I wanted to do big oratorios with orchestra, and to my amazement, the group came along with that, and it seemed every time we set ourselves a goal, the audience came along with us. So we started with a program of Vaughan Williams and Benjamin Britten. And then we did Elijah and Messiah and all of the standard rep, and we started branching out, doing Finzi and Elgar and things that were a little bit on the fringe. So
a challenge, as you said. And you were conducting already at that point? Pax Christi wasn't your first or was?
No, I'd been doing choirs basically all my life. I grew up in the Mennonite community where singing in choirs is as natural as eating pie. It's something everyone does and enjoys. But you don't often get a chance to do big works with orchestra because it's really expensive. So you need a whole support system behind you that believes in this. And it's so worthwhile because Toronto is home to so many wonderful instrumental players. We just couldn't do this in many cities across Canada, where all these wonderful freelance people can come in and play your concert for you. I mean, that
I was going to ask how you pulled the orchestra together for this one, because it's bigger than sometimes. I mean, I know people like Talisker are there for a more typical choral context, but this must have been a challenge.
Well, you might know my friend Mary Catherine Finch, who's an extraordinary cellist, and we played in a trio for 15 years together, and with Larry Beckwith. And
Arbor Oak.
That's right, Arbor Oak Trio. Oh.
One for me.
Yeah, you get a star. Yeah, those were good days playing early music, and we did a lot of early English opera as well. We had a lot of fun doing that.
Which Larry has found his way back into with Toronto Mask Theatre.
Absolutely.
Significantly with Purcell and etc.
Yeah, the theatre aspect is what he really wanted to run with, and Mary Catherine, the orchestral playing. Right. And I wanted to do more choral conducting with orchestra. So Mary Catherine is my my great friend and my orchestral contractor.
She's your wrangler, is she?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we went through the work and we came up with a pretty brilliant plan, I think, to orient the principal players first with a smaller rehearsal and then expand to our big orchestral rehearsals, of which we have 3. And our soloists will be coming in 2 weeks as well. So the whole thing, just like a puzzle, gets put together.
Big undertaking.
It is indeed.
And it's not all you're doing. I know you've got Church of St. Mary Magdalene choirs. And York. Yes. And Scola Magdalena at...
You're up on this, David.
I know. I'm a Google expert. I don't know. These are things that I kind of swim in a lot of the time. But Scola Magdalena seemed like a really interesting thing because it's...
It is, yeah.
It seems like in many ways the opposite end of the spectrum. Pure voice, as tight and intimate as it gets. Yeah. Almost like an art song counterpart of this.
Right. Well, that's pretty much fringe repertoire too, isn't it? So ladies singing medieval music. We had Anonymous 4 singing in town last week, and that's a kind of model for us, just unaccompanied women's voices singing very old music. And that's very rewarding because it works in a very different way. A work like that, my position is to hold a stick and make everyone do what I want them to do. Which
just with the stick or with your voice as well?
It's gesture conducting.
It's gesture, okay.
But in Scola, it's totally different. We're a group and we're all equal. And we work on the repertoire together and we make decisions together. And I think that's really healthy for a conductor to have balance, because you can get a bit kooky if you think in real life you can tell everyone what to do, because it doesn't really work that way.
No.
So
well,
it's a good balance.
You can tell them what to do, they won't necessarily all do it. So.
Yeah. But the other thing that you didn't mention, I'll just jump in, is something that I derive great joy from right now is composition. Yep. And I've just written a song for Michael Robert Broder to sing for the Elgar Society, who are meeting on the same weekend as the show. And I'll be composer in residence at the festival in Barrie in the fall. So I've written a piece for Macmillan Singers and Hilary Uppelstadt, which she just received today, and some chamber music for clarinet, trumpet, and keyboard. So that I find also a really great balance, because that's just me writing. So it's a solitary pursuit, but it's a really good balance with all of the the very busy public stuff as well.
And a string quartet earlier?
Yeah, string quartet that premiered in January. And Windermere Quartet will play it.
That's what I remember.
I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but they will play it on their season next year.
Oh, great.
So it'll have a second playing.
Second playing is something devoutly to be wished.
Almost better than a premiere.
Absolutely.
And also my cantata Winter Nights will be sung in Kitchener-Waterloo by the Grand Philharmonic in December. So that's a cantata for choir and small orchestra, the same orchestra that's used for Benjamin Britten's cantata St. Nicholas. So they sort of go as a pair.
And can be, did you think of that as a kind of programming?
I did, because St. Nicholas is not really long enough for a whole Christmas program. And it's nice to use the orchestral forces that you have in front of you, because it's a bit of a weird band. It's strings, piano four hands, and all this percussion. And there aren't too many other pieces written for that combination. So, yeah, I thought I'd just use that and go from there.
Wow. So what else?
What else? You mentioned St. Mary Magdalene as well, which is a very interesting place to work because, of course, I have the legacy of the great Canadian composer Healy Willan to inspire. And we have a beautiful choir there that sings solely a cappella music. Mostly Renaissance music, but a lot of modern music and some romantic things too. A very dedicated group. You can't find more dedicated musicians than church musicians because they have a gig every weekend, and they rehearse every week. So that's a wonderful thing that Toronto offers is an amazing underground of amateur singers who are practicing all the time. Yes, and you mentioned York too.
Yeah.
York University, and I see graduates of our program working here at the magazine, which is really wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you the custodian of the viols at York, or is someone else?
The viols, which were donated to York by Peggy Sampson, are well cared for. We've actually built a special case in a special room to house them, and it will be Professor Mark Chambers who's coaching the viol ensemble there. So, yeah, that's a really wonderful thing to have. It's funny how these things go in cycles because York moved into world music and away from early music, and now we're moving right back. And we have a beautiful harpsichord made by Yves Beaupré, a chamber organ and viols, and we have a very active Baroque ensemble who are performing tomorrow night at St. Mary Magdalene's. They'll be doing a concert version of Dido and Aeneas, and of course, the video won't show before then. So,
not before then, but soon after, and definitely in time for this. And I hope this won't be the last chat, but
I hope not. It's been a pleasure.
Lovely, thank you. And thank you. We'll see you again too. Bye-bye.